Okay guys, you have made it to section 6, and this is kind of a wrap-up section. We're not going to throw a whole bunch of new stuff at you because at the end of this section you're going to be making your own film using everything we've been discussing in all the last sections. And so this section is really designed as a way to just talk to you about some things that can go wrong while you're filming a film. And so we just want to talk about that, give you some encouragement. Now, when you go to make your final film, you're no doubt going to come across some problems. And this always happens whenever you're making a film. It doesn't matter if you're Hollywood-sized film or you're just a teeny pipsqueak out there making a film with a camera by yourself. Doesn't matter. You're always going to encounter problems. And so it's really, really easy to kind of get overwhelmed by making your own film. And we want to encourage you that, you know what, it's normal and it happens to every new filmmaker. It just doesn't matter who you are, it's going to happen. So let's just talk about a few things that you're going to encounter. So the first thing we want to discuss is getting a crew to help you. Get some good volunteers, and when you get them, sign them up, figure out who you need to do what, and then really make sure that you're encouraging to them because they're coming to help you, and chances are they're probably not having an idea of what they're doing, and so they're coming to help you because they love you and you're their friend, but chances are they don't know what you're doing. So make sure you communicate clearly what you want them to do, and try never ever to get frustrated at them because again, they're there to help you, and they might not know what you're doing. They might hold a microphone wrong. They might forget to hit record a couple times. Who knows what they'll do? But chances are they're not going to be perfect. And so don't allow that to frustrate you. Stay calm, stay relaxed, and remember, they're there to help you. And so be encouraging. It'll come together and it'll happen. If you decide to do something involving where you need hair and makeup, some people really want to get into that early, and they really want to do something cool that involves like a crash or somebody gets cut and there's fake blood and things like that. We want to kind of leave that up to you. We're not going to teach you anything about how to do hair and makeup in this class. That is something you're going to have to figure out on your own if you're going to do it for this workshop. So that being said, if you do it, just make sure that you take some time, that you're going to have to get creative on what you do, and it can really add a whole extra element of frustration to a new film, because let's think about it. If your hair is supposed to be perfect and then it gets messed up in a scene and you need to do it again, then suddenly you have to reset the whole thing. The person's going to get their hair fixed again, and it can be a huge hassle. So for your first film, we would suggest you try to stay away from any kind of special effects involving blood or crashes or anything like that. And if you can, try to stay away from makeup too for this kind of film. Just get the basics. Focus on the camera and the action and the story. You do that, you'll be in a much better position. So try to do, focus on that. Now, when you get into the editing booth, chances are you're going to have things that you filmed that you thought were going to work out just perfectly, and then you put them together and the cuts don't work perfectly well like you thought they would. And that's okay too. One of the best practices is to look at what you've got and say, hey, this is what I've got. Got to figure out a way to make it work, and just keep working at it until it's usable. Ask your friends to kind of review it and say, hey, is this telling a story? And you know what? Sometimes, I've had to work with cuts that were just horrendous. So it's okay if your cuts are not perfect. Just go with what you have. Try to tell the story. Use what you've got. If you can reshoot something, fantastic. But sometimes you can't. And if that's the case, don't worry about it. Just do your best. Another thing is audio. Let's face it, guys, audio is a beast to work on. Whether you're using on-camera audio or shotgun microphones or whatever you're happening to use, audio can be a beast. And so chances are for your, if you're a new filmmaker, you're going to struggle with the audio. That's okay too. Just do your absolute best. Anytime you look at an awesome director, maybe like J.J. Abrams or Steven Spielberg, if you watch their beginning stuff, their audio is horrendous. So you can only get better. So don't freak out over your audio. Just do the best that you can with what you can. If you only have a camera, do what you can with the camera. If you have a boom, do your best you can with the boom. Whatever works, just try to do your best. Another great way to fix audio problems is by inserting music. And now you can get into licensing issues if you just start grabbing music from Hans Zimmer or something like that. You might not want to do that because you don't have rights to that, even though it can make your film sound really epic. But there are plenty of sites for you, like pond5.com, or you can go to iStock Photo, I believe, has music now. So you can just Google, royalty-free music, and there's all kinds of sites on the internet that offer it. And I've bought Pond5 music before for $2, and I could use use it and it was perfectly license free. Or even better, if you have a friend that makes music somewhere, maybe somebody, a friend of yours has a CD they put together, try to use their music. But what we would suggest, if you do use music, make sure that your music isn't overpowering the story in the film itself. Make sure that the music is subtle. You want it in the background. You almost don't want people to notice that there is music in your film, if that makes sense. You kind of want it to set the tone, but you don't want to overwhelm it. A lot of new filmmakers, they kind of crank that audio real up and it kind of becomes distracting to the story. You don't want that. So try to ease back and just put it just loud enough where it's kind of setting a tone, but it's not super recognizable. You don't want people thinking, oh, the music's really good. If they're doing that, they're not thinking about your story. So try to limit your levels of your music. When you go to export, we've had tons of issues and problems in the past exporting a file for whatever reason, so just work at it. Usually we would recommend exporting to H.264 or maybe an MP4 file. They tend to be smaller, they're more compressed, easier to upload, and if you're doing your own film, when you go to export, just make sure you export it in a way that you can use it and put it online easy enough. Don't try to, if you do super high res, you're going to end up with a file that's dozens of gigs. So just be careful when you're exporting that you try to compress it down and make it easy for people to share it with you and all that kind of stuff. And then lastly, you're going to have to share your film. You're going to send it to us. We're going to look at it and review it. We're going to want to encourage you on the things that we think you did great. I mean, we're really excited to see what you've come up with. But that being said, it's kind of like you're putting a piece of yourself out there when you make a film, because it really is a piece of yourself. It's your baby. You thought about it. You stressed about it. You put a ton of effort into the thing. And then when you put it out there for the world to see, it can be really shocking if they don't say, oh, wow, that's not the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life. If they don't say that, if they're like, oh, it was good, and that's all they say, it can feel like 100 bricks just hit you in the face. So try to remember, you're sharing this with the world. You've got to share it. You've got to get it out there. That's part of the learning process, is to put your stuff out there, even when it's not the best thing ever made. Put it out there. Let people watch it. And you know what? If they don't say the most encouraging thing, or if they say something negative about your audio was bad or something, just, let it go. Don't let it beat you up, okay? Because anytime you're making new films and you're learning your craft, you've got to take critique from people. It's not always the most comfortable thing, but you kind of have to do it. It kind of sharpens your edges and it will make you better in the end. And as far as Lumen Deo goes, we want to encourage you because we're just so excited that you're doing it. I mean, we believe here that your story matters and we want you to become a great filmmaker. We want you to get your stuff out in the world and basically share your message with the world. And that's really our whole heart here. So we want to see it. We will encourage you. We look at everything with very wide open eyes. We understand where you're coming from. And so we look forward to seeing it. And with that said, let's look at your section project for Section 6.